Have you ever been alone in a room, or perhaps walking down a quiet path, when suddenly an animal appeared in a way that felt wrong? Not just a stray dog crossing the street, or a bird landing on a branch, but a presence that made the hair on the back of your neck stand up? A moment where the air seemed to grow heavy, the sounds of the world muffled, and you felt an intense, piercing gaze that seemed to look right through your skin and into your soul. Most people brush this off. We tell ourselves it is just nature, just biology, just a coincidence. We laugh nervously and move on with our day, burying that instinctive tremor deep inside. But what if I told you that that tremor was not fear, but recognition? What if your soul was seeing something your eyes could not fully comprehend? There is a language that is older than words. It is a language of signs, of symbols, and of warnings. We live in a world that we think is made only of concrete, glass, and atoms. But the great mystics, the men and women who walked closest to the fire of God's love, knew differently. They knew that the physical world is merely a thin veil draped over a spiritual reality that is teeming with activity. They knew that the battle between light and darkness is not just a metaphor found in old books. It is a living, breathing war happening around us. And sometimes that war spills over into the visible world. Sometimes the spiritual reality manifests in the physical, trying to catch our attention, trying to wake us up before we walk into a trap we cannot see. This is not superstition. An animal is not magic. But Padre Pio's life shows that sometimes God allows nature and even disturbances to awaken the soul. These are not rules, they are spiritual patterns that should lead you to prayer. And always rule out natural explanations first. Animal behavior, stress, grief, or ordinary coincidence. Discernment begins with sobriety. San Pio of Pietrelcina, the Capuchin friar who bore the wounds of Christ for 50 years, lived entirely in this dual reality. To him, the spiritual world was as tangible as the stone walls of his cell. He saw angels. He spoke with souls who had passed from this life. And yes, he saw the enemy. He saw the adversary, the deceiver who often did not come as a cloud of smoke, but took on physical forms. Beasts, strange creatures, furious animals, to intimidate, to warn, or to test. Padre Pio reveals that nature itself can sometimes act as a barometer for the spiritual atmosphere. But here is the question that should make you pause. If God allowed an animal-related disturbance to awaken a saint, do you think he cannot use even ordinary moments to awaken you? We are going to walk through a territory that requires immense maturity. We are not talking about superstition. We are not talking about looking for omens in every cat that crosses your path. We are talking about spiritual discernment inspired by the life of Padre Pio. There are 3 specific types of animal manifestations that, in the mystical tradition and the experiences of the saint, often signal a shift in the spiritual atmosphere. These are warnings. They are calls to arms. They are invitations to drop to your knees. If you have seen these things, or if you ever do, you need to know how to react, not with fear, but with the power of a child of God. Most of us walk through life spiritually asleep. We are like people walking through a dense forest at night without a lantern. We stumble, we get scratched, we feel anxious, but we never stop to ask why. We attribute our family arguments to stress. We attribute our sudden dark moods to the weather. We attribute the heavy, oppressive feeling in our homes to poor ventilation. We have become masters at explaining away the spiritual. We have sanitized our lives to the point where we no longer recognize when we are under siege. And this blindness is dangerous. It is dangerous because the enemy of human nature, as Padre Pio called him, prefers to work in the dark. He prefers that you think he doesn't exist. He prefers that you think your suffering is entirely random. But the spiritual life is not random. It is governed by laws of grace and consequences of sin. When we allow disorder into our hearts, when we harbor unforgiveness, when we toy with grave sin, when we neglect prayer, we change the spiritual temperature of our homes. We create a climate. And just as a drop in physical pressure signals a coming storm, a drop in spiritual pressure signals a coming attack. The problem is, we often don't feel the pressure drop until the storm is already tearing the roof off. We wait until the marriage is broken, until the addiction is fully formed, until the depression is overwhelming. Padre Pio teaches us that the soul should be like a fortress with guards on the wall. But most of us have left the gates wide open and the guards are asleep. We are not vigilant. And because God is merciful, because He does not want us to be taken by surprise, He sometimes allows the physical world to snap us out of our stupor. He allows the veil to thin. He allows a sign. This is not to scare you. God does not use fear to paralyze. He uses holy fear to awaken. The warning is an act of mercy. It is a tap on the shoulder saying, "Wake up, look around. You are walking into danger." The suffering we feel, that unexplained anxiety, that sudden dread, is often the soul reacting to a presence it senses but the mind denies. It is like a dog growling at an empty corner. The dog sees what you do not. Your soul senses the danger before your intellect catches up. Padre Pio was a master of this sensitivity. He didn't wait for the devil to destroy his peace. He sensed the approach and armed himself. Today, we have lost this art. We treat the symptoms, but we ignore the cause. We are going to look at how the natural world sometimes mirrors this spiritual reality, and how, specifically, certain manifestations can serve as a divine alarm clock for your soul. We must approach this with the authority and balance of the Church, guided by the wisdom of Padre Pio. He was not a man of folklore. He was a man of the altar. He did not believe in magic. He believed in the absolute lordship of Jesus Christ. When we speak of animals appearing, we must be very clear. The animal itself is a creature of God, good and innocent. A dog is a dog. A bird is a bird. They do not have magical powers. However, the enemy can manipulate our perception, or God can use the presence of a creature to signal a spiritual reality. Padre Pio's authority on this comes from experience. In the silence of his monastery cell, the battle was physical. The devil would appear to him as a large, black, vicious dog, growling and threatening to devour him. Other times he would appear as a strange bird or a swarm of vile insects. Why? Because the enemy often mimics nature to mock God's creation or to instill a primal instinctive fear in us. But Pio did not cower. He did not run. He stood his ground, armed with the rosary and the name of Jesus. He knew that these manifestations, while terrifying, were actually signs of the enemy's weakness. A dog that barks is a dog that is afraid to bite. A devil that has to resort to visual scare tactics is a devil that has lost its grip on the soul's interior consent. But there is a deeper layer. Sometimes the sign is not from the enemy, but a permission from God regarding the souls of the faithful departed. In the life of Padre Pio, birds or other creatures sometimes symbolized a soul in need of prayer, knocking on the door of the living, asking for the charity of a mass. This is a revelation that requires a heart of faith. It suggests that the boundary between the church militant, US, and the church suffering, purgatory, is permeable. Before we reveal the 3 specific signs, I invite you to make a small act of faith right now. You don't need to type it. Just say it in the silence of your heart. Lord, give me eyes to see and a heart to discern. Protect my home from all evil. This simple turning of the will is the beginning of protection. It is the moment the guard on the wall wakes up. Padre Pio teaches us that we do not need to be mystics to be protected. We just need to be humble. We need to admit that we don't see everything. We need to admit that we need help. Now, let us look at these 3 warnings. These are not to be taken as a checklist for superstition, but as categories of spiritual discernment inspired by the battles of the saint. The first warning is the manifestation of the aggressive or strange beast. In the accounts of Padre Pio, the enemy often took the form of a black dog, not a normal animal, but one that radiated a sense of malice, heaviness, and unnatural aggression. This is not about being afraid of your neighbor's pet. This is about an encounter with an animal, often a large dog, or sometimes a cat or an indeterminate beast that appears suddenly, behaves with an intelligence that seems human and malevolent, and instills a deep, freezing sense of dread or revulsion that is disproportionate to the situation. The spiritual warning. When such a presence is felt, or when a real animal behaves with inexplicable, focused aggression towards you or your home without natural cause, it often signals a spiritual breach. It warns that the hedge of protection around you or your family has been lowered, often through mortal sin, the presence of occult objects in the home, or a deep, festering hatred among family members. It is a warning that the enemy is prowling, looking for an entry point. It is a call to immediate examination of conscience. Are you in a state of grace? Is there a portal of sin you have left open? The second warning is the persistent, sorrowful bird or knocking. Padre Pio often spoke of souls from purgatory visiting him. Sometimes these visits were preceded by the behavior of birds, a bird tapping persistently at a window, sitting unnaturally still and watching, or a sudden, unexplained sound of knocking where no physical cause exists. The spiritual warning. This is rarely a sign of danger, but rather a plea for charity. In the modern world, we have forgotten the dead. We bury them and move on. But the souls in purgatory cannot pray for themselves. They rely on us. If you experience this, a bird that seems to be asking for something, or a gentle, persistent knocking, it may be a gentle reminder from God that you have neglected your duties of charity towards the deceased. It is a reminder that someone in your lineage or someone you knew is waiting for the relief of your prayers. It is a call to offer a mass, to pray the rosary for the forgotten souls. It's not a haunting. It is a beggar knocking at your door for spiritual bread. The third warning is the swarm of vile insects. There were times in the lives of mystics where sudden, inexplicable infestations of flies, ants, or other insects occurred, specifically during times of prayer or in holy places without a natural source. Padre Pio knew that the devil is often called Beelzebub, the lord of the flies. The spiritual warning. This sign often points to spiritual contamination and harassment. It warns of the presence of nagging sins, gossip, impurity, envy, small dishonesties that have been allowed to pile up like garbage in the soul. Just as flies are attracted to rotting matter, spiritual harassment is attracted to the rotting matter of unconfessed venial sins and lukewarmness. A sudden, unnatural swarm that resists natural removal can be a warning that your spiritual house is unclean. It is a warning that you are drifting into spiritual sloth and that the enemy is trying to distract you, to annoy you, to take away your peace so that you stop praying. Let me tell you a story that illustrates how this works in real life. This is not a legend from a century ago, but a reality inspired by the experiences of a family we will call the Millers. The Millers were a good family, but they had drifted. The father had stopped going to Mass, consumed by work and bitterness. The mother was anxious, filling the silence of the home with noise and television. They were drifting apart. The air in the house was heavy, thick with unspoken arguments. One evening, a large, dark dog appeared in their backyard. It wasn't a stray they recognized. It didn't bark, it just paced. It circled the house round and round, staring at the windows with a gaze that the father later described as ancient. Every time they tried to chase it away, it would vanish into the shadows, only to return the next night. The fear in the house grew. The arguments escalated. The father felt a dark rage he couldn't explain. The mother felt a crushing despair. They were under siege, and the physical presence of this animal was the manifestation of the spiritual reality closing in on them. Then, the mother remembered a story of Padre Pio. She remembered that evil has no authority over a baptized soul in a state of grace. She didn't call animal control, she called a priest. She went to confession. She brought holy water into the house, not as a magic potion, but as a claim of God's territory. She prayed the rosary, filling the air with the Hail Mary instead of the noise of the television. That night the dog returned, but this time the father went out, not with a stick, but with a rosary in his pocket. He stood on the porch and simply made the sign of the cross. He reclaimed his authority as the spiritual head of the house. The animal stopped pacing. It looked at him, let out a low, whining sound, not a growl of power, but a whimper of defeat, and ran into the woods. It never returned. But more importantly, the rage in the father's heart vanished. The heaviness lifted. The warning had been heeded. The beast was not the problem. The beast was the symptom of the spiritual door they had left open. Once the door was closed by grace, the beast had no place to stand. This brings us to the most important point of all. Why does heaven allow these things? Why does God permit the enemy to rattle the cage? Why does he allow the souls to knock? Why does he allow the flies to buzz? Because he loves you too much to let you sleep through your own destruction. Padre Pio famously said, "The devil is like a mad dog tied by a chain. Beyond the length of the chain he cannot seize anyone, and you therefore keep at a distance. If you approach too near, you let yourself be caught." These warnings, whether they are feelings, signs in nature, or disturbances in your peace, are the sound of the chain rattling. They are telling you that you have stepped too close to the radius of the dog. You do not need to be afraid. Fear is the devil's currency. Do not pay him. Instead, let these warnings trigger a response of maturity and action. If you feel the presence of the dark beast, anger, heaviness, threat, run to the confessional. That is where the chain is shortened. If you hear the bird, sorrow, memory of the dead, offer a mass. That is where charity bridges the gap between worlds. If you see the insects, distraction, impurity, clean your house, both physically and spiritually. Use holy water, pray to St. Michael. The victory has already been won. Christ has conquered. These signs are just reminders to stay on the winning side. Do not be a victim of the invisible world. Be a warrior in it. I want you to do something concrete today. Walk through your home. If there is an object that disturbs your spirit, remove it. If there is a room where arguments always happen, sprinkle it with holy water, and then say a simple prayer. Jesus, I claim this home for you. Mary, cover us with your mantle. If you have ever felt these warnings, or if you are ready to take your spiritual defense seriously, I want you to write in the comments below, "I am covered by the blood of Christ." Let this be your declaration of victory. And remember, the eyes of the Lord are upon the just, and his ears are open to their prayers. You are never alone.